Sequels friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing just a quick refresh on a couple of belts that I bought. If you watched my last mini haul video from earlier this week, you know that I went out to a yard sale and I picked up two belts that were definitely vintage and a little rough for wear. And so I decided that I would share with you in this video how I got those refreshed, cleaned up, and ready for sale. So if you did not see that mini haul video, I will tag it up above. You are welcome to go watch that, and let's get right into it. So I picked these two belts up at a yard sale when I went out yard sailing, and they were both $1 each. This one, I believe they're both vintage, and this one is a vintage fossil belt. It has really beautiful detailing on it, but you can see that it just looks a little rough. The finish is a little rough. There's definitely some wear on it, and the belt itself is fine. There's no cracking, but you can see really well right there that the buckle has, it just needs some work. And this belt, the buckle looks fabulous, but the belt itself is a little bit more worn and definitely could use a little leather conditioning, and the underside is fairly well worn. And you can see back to this one, it definitely needs some conditioning. You can see how just rough it looks. So I keep all of my stuff here in this little container, and I think pulling out some leather conditioner and some polish is going to help. So I'm going to use my Dr. Martens Wonder Balsam. It is fabulous. And the only thing I have for polish is this Simichrome polish that I use for jewelry and to test my bake light. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and see what it does. Now, I've never done this polish on something that looks like this before, so I'm not convinced that it's going to make it look like new, but I do think that it will help it look a little nicer. So before I get started on that, I noticed that there's some frayed tags here from where the size tags was. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all cleaned up, which I have to admit was a little bit harder than I anticipated. I couldn't get my scissors in there very well. I just wanted it to not look so straggly. I don't care that it's there. I just want it to not look so straggly. And it just takes a couple of seconds there to clean it up. Now with the Simichrome, I have a bunch of old towels here that I've just ripped apart and I use for tasks perfectly like this. And I usually just take some of this with a cloth and just dot it on, spread it out a little bit, dot it on. Very small amount. You do not need to use a lot of this. I've made that mistake before. And also be warned, it does have a fairly strong fragrance to it. But you do not need to use a lot. I'm just trying to decide if I should do it on the back side and the front, but I think I'm just going to stick with the front. So you can see I kind of just dot it on a little bit, splotch it on, and I'll let it sit for a second, for a little bit, and then I'll just come in and wipe it down. So I could see here just a little touch, not a lot, a little touch, and then we're going to go in there and just start to wipe it. So I'll speed up this video a little bit so you can see the tarnish coming off already. I'll speed up this video so you don't have to watch every waking second of this, but I do want to show you how small of amount I use, and that the rubbing is really what helps to take it off. So I'll speed it up for you here, and I do rub a lot. There's a lot of rubbing involved, and you'll see on your cloth it'll start to take it off, and then if you get a cleaner piece of cloth, you'll see less of it starts to come off, and then you know you're done. And then once I'm done, I try to take a cloth and kind of just really rub it in and polish it up. And you can see there it's got a little bit of a shine to it. Not perfect, but definitely better than it was before. And here's a nice side-by-side view for you. Now I'm going to get to work on that medallion part, doing the exact same thing, just dotting a little bit of it on, going in there, rubbing it down, moving my cloth around so that I find a more clean part of the cloth that I can rub that tarnish off. And then, like I said, at the very end, you take a nice clean cloth and put some pressure on it and really kind of like buff it up. It works wonderful. Now, I did some research, and there are lots of different things you can use to clean up these belts and these buckles. Of course, soap and water is always your first starting point. That was not enough to take care of this. I'm using what I have on hand. I see a lot of cowboys clean up their buckles with Brasso, so that's another option for you. Of course, you can use toothpaste and a bristle brush. That would work as well. I would not recommend, if you're cleaning up your own belts, to do this often, as it will cause some wear and tear that's unnecessary on your buckles. But to do this to jazz it up so that it looks a little nicer in your photography, and also to just refresh it. I mean, if I'm going to get a belt for $1 and sell it for 30 or 40, you can bet that I'm going to do something to it to justify that price difference. And one of the things is to just refresh it for the customer. That's why they're paying for me as a reseller, so that they can get, you know, this at a great condition without them having to put the effort into it. I was distracted because you could really see right here in the video how that buffing up is really shining that sucker up. I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys use to buff up silver belts? If there's any tarnishing on it, if it needs a little bit of refresh, what are you guys using? Now I'm going to show you here the medallion part, a beautiful before and after, where you can kind of see, again, not perfect, but it looks better. Now I'm going to pull that Dr. Martens Wonder Balsam back on out, and we're going to give these belts some conditioning. You can see that I've had this. I think this is the same container I had since I started reselling. So a little of this goes a long way. That is another thing that I learned in the beginning. I've used way too much of this before, and you're really just wasting product because you're just going to take you longer to pull it off. And I just rub that in. And then I'll come back later and I tend to rub it all in all over and then let it sit for a little bit. And then I'll come back in and clean it up with another cloth just to make sure that there's no residue left behind. Now, there are all types of leather conditioners out there. I'm sure you have your favorites, so let me know in the comment section which are your favorite leather conditioners to use. And I'm sure there's some all-natural ones. I know that I've used, like, you could probably use coconut oil as long as you're really good about cleaning it up and getting it off. So I would love to hear from you guys as to what you're using. Now, you do have to be careful right here when you get around the holes for the buckle, because there will be some Wonder Balsam that will go into those holes, and that's just something that you want to make sure that you clean up. So it's easy to push like a little pin through there to get that out. I just was a little rough with my cloth and was able to get it out. So like I said, I'll set it aside for a little bit, let it kind of soak up that conditioning, and then I'll come back with a new towel and make sure that I've gotten it all clean. I'm going to go ahead and go in and do the second one. This one doesn't need as much conditioning as the last one, but I might as well do it to kind of shine it up so that it looks good for photography. And there you have it. Doesn't really take a whole lot of effort. I'm speeding it up here so that you can see, but this is taking me minutes, guys. I mean, you can have this whole thing done in less than 5 minutes. It doesn't take a long time to do it all, and definitely worth it to get more money out of your thrifted and yard sale finds. And here I'm just showing you the ending pictures for product photography, and just look at the shine on that belt. I mean, I could see why this thing sold in just a day. Guys, it doesn't take a lot of cost or effort to get those things clean. I gave you some other resources of things I did not use in case, you know, we all have different things on hand. So when in doubt, use something that you already have. Why spend money on this stuff? And it's really, you know, worth its while for the minimal amount of time that it takes, and especially the low buy-in cost of belts. And belts are clearly a trending thing right now. So when you are out in the wild, do not be put off or afraid of any belt that looks a little bit dingy, the leather looks worn, or if that buckle looks tarnished, for a dollar price, it's definitely worth it to get home and try to give it a little polishing and a little cleanup. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate you watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next time with some more reselling content. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.